All right, you beautiful people, let's get the ball on the roll. I am doing another episode of the Conquest Podquest. Episode 13, beautiful motherfuckers out there. As you can probably not see, this is not a video podcast. I'm actually going in on this all audio. I'm being really lazy today. Don't feel like hooking up webcam, doing all that bullshit. Don't really want to be that presentable because, yeah, fuck it. I don't really feel like it. So I still want to put my words and my knowledge out there, but I don't know. I just don't want to have to feel like I have to get presentable. Not that I do. I mean, I don't have to. I could look like a slob, but who wants to look at a sloppy person's fucking dog? So, yeah. I still wanted to talk, obviously, so I'm gonna fucking go in on some shit. But anyways, yeah, I guess my first kind of topic here I wanted to start off on is martial arts. Yesterday I started watching, well, I guess last week. I finished it last night. It was Street Fighter The Assassin's Fist. And for some people who don't know what Street Fighter is, kind of like Mortal Kombat, a lot different, not as violent and bloody, but very technical fighting game. It's been around since like Super Nintendo. I'm sure anybody listening who actually knows video games probably knows what the fuck Street Fighter is. Hadouken! All that type of shit. You know, Shoryuken! I don't know the kick one, but I would be a super nerd if I did. But yeah, so they made like a movie version of this, and it's basically like the chronicles of these two characters for people who don't know, Ryu and Ken. People who just like movies maybe or aren't really into video games. It's a good story. This is like a fan film that they made of the video game series that kind of like details their background and how they became proficient in the martial arts style that they are, and kind of initiates the story of Street Fighter as a like origin story. But either way, it's fucking interesting. Like, it provides so much in terms of like old knowledge or just little tidbits of wisdom and stuff that really instills people, obviously, that are like me. When I watch, I love martial arts stuff, and I love watching martial arts films just because of the philosophy within them. I feel like it's a way as an American, obviously it's a cheesy fucking way, but like to kind of gain some of the fruits of other people's labors in their art, which is obviously just, you know, a movie, but like when you're watching this, it's more than just a movie. It's a collection of, you know, fight choreography, actual martial arts that are like really done regardless if the strikes land or not. Like, you have to be proficient enough as a martial artist, at least an actor, or a martial artist actor, you know, an action actor, to pull those off. So in theory, you're like living this fight out. You're so disciplined and focused to like live in this moment. And I feel like just because of that, the East has a lot of fucking entertainment and media in the form of like martial arts, and just like the idea of like the warrior's pilgrimage, which is this concept of like after you've completed your training, like a very long time ago at least, you would go on a warrior's pilgrimage in the sense that you would leave your dojo. You've been completed your fucking, you know, your mastery of whatever your art was, and now it was your time to go out to like finally release yourself from the bonds of being a student to learn how to become a master. Like, the masters taught you all. Wow, look at me go. Has taught you all he can fucking teach you, so it's your time to go off and learn the lessons life has to teach you. You know, there's nothing left he has to give you. He's given you, he's filled your cup with what he had to give, and now, like, now that your cup's filled, it can run over a flow for other people, in the sense that, like, you can start giving back, you can be a teacher, but you have to go out into the world, and kind of like how a bird has to jump out of the nest. Like, how does it learn how to fly? When does it know it's the right time? You know, like, when are these archetypal stages of life where you know, like, this is the next stage? And, like, that movie, for me at least, just kind of nailed a lot of cool stuff in terms of, I guess, like, maybe even coming of age shit. But, like, regardless of all those themes, what struck me the most interesting was just, like, the Eastern mysticism and, like, the idea. I mean, like, yeah, we've subjectively or objectively, I'm not sure which, but I mean, like, we've objectively seen YouTube videos of people supposedly using their ki to perform some feat, and like, you're looking at, or no, you're not looking at, so I'm an idiot. You're listening to somebody who is pretty open-minded in terms of what's possible for life. Like, I believe it's a fusion of both an understanding of science and mysticism, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think it's inherently either. I think a lot of the mystic shit can be handled by the human mind in the sense that it can be understood analytically or logically or scientifically, but I guess that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it can be understood that way, but what the fuck? I just went into a black hole. I apologize for that. I had a little technical difficulties with my fucking computer. I don't know why I'm acting so professional and like polite. Yeah. So back to that. Like, I think things are a fusion of both mysticism and science. Like, in the sense that I feel like not everything, obviously, because I'm not acting like I'm an authority in anything. But I just feel like a lot of these mystic things could be explained. They just seem mystic because we don't understand them. So it's like, oh, it's magic. Or is it just when you know what it is no longer magic? It's just like a trick. It's magic. You know, there's A plus B equals C. It's just the effect. It is the sum total of the actions or things required to make it exist or come about. But whether that's magic or a fucking fireball or walking on water or whatever, I feel like there's obvious processes in something like that. Like, you don't just walk on water. I mean, to people who don't understand it, you just immediately jump to the mystic side of shit. Like, oh, he's doing it and like it's supernatural or like whatever. But like the dude doing it, I wonder if he thinks like, oh, I'm supernatural. I bet he just thinks, oh no, I'm natural. Like, this is natural. Like, I understand something you don't. And so it's like his knowing or acquirement of some form of knowledge, whether that's like, math or some input of something. Like, it's a process, it's a series of steps. Regardless, who is this dude that I'm making up in my head and whatever. I'm just making up an example. But like, say in theory, just in the world of possibilities, we met a man walking on water, and we were to ask him, how are you doing that? And we were like coming from a scientific angle, and he was like speaking in fucking riddles and shit. Like, God says, oh wow, fuck, dude, I need to get a camera. I just saw a sturgeon the size of my fucking dick jump out of the water. That thing was huge, son. Yeah, I don't think I'm ever gonna fucking capture that thing. I know people have tried for years, and way crazier people than me fucking photographizing that shit. Photographizing, yeah, my vocabulary. My vernacular be all fucking special. Yeah, so, I mean, like, something that, getting back to what I was fucking talking about, because I like this side tangent, is, I just think it's interesting, like, if you understand the concepts or principles behind something that you don't understand, it suddenly becomes less magic or mysticism and more just understanding of principles or set series of fucking equations. Like, that's what an equation is. Like, A plus B equals C. If you, like, a spinning jump kick, like, you gotta jump, you gotta spin, you gotta lift your fucking leg, and you combine all the parts together. I mean, it's more than that. It's more complex than that. You would feel it throughout your body, the motions, but, like, realistically, it is a series of motions that, when done or performed by somebody in the correct order, is something. And then you name it, and you're like, that's this spinning jump kick. And it's like, components are those pieces, and when you master each piece and you combine them together, you get A plus B equals C, which is C is the spinning jump kick. And like, A is probably the jump, and B is the spin, and you can add A plus C, A plus B plus C equals D if you want, just to make it a little better, because they're all variables, and fill in 3 constraints in there and be like the jump, the spin, and lifting your fucking leg up. Straightforward, and work on all those things or little pieces. You can break it down into more steps if you need, because a lot of equations equal the same number, or the same can equal the same outcome. There's many paths to the same number, or the same different equations can all have the same solution. But I just think it's interesting that when you figure out certain paths to accessing through knowledge, these abilities or skills or techniques or whatever you want to fucking call them in martial arts, that there's like these higher levels of attainment, and martial arts is all preparing the body, mind, and soul to acquire those peacefully or not peacefully through hatred. But like, that was the whole point of that the movie, was just that eventually there was this kind of war between these brothers, Goken and Akuma, or his name's Goki. And like I said, it's a lot of fucking names, so I don't expect anybody to fucking remember any of that shit. But obviously one kind of represents the more I don't want to say the good side and the bad side, because they are kind of like, obviously if you just want to look at it in black and white terms, like, that's the bad guy, that's the good guy. And it's not like the good guy's doing something bad so it makes him morally gray. It's just that, like, what they're fighting over is something so morally gray, because it is the art of killing, but like, one's doing it through the path of peace and like Minohado, which just means the power of nothingness, and the other is like trying to master it through Satsu no Hado, which is like murderous intent. So it's just like having this complete idea in your mind with the intent to obliterate your enemy with no exemption, just completely until they are not breathing, like the murderous intent, and like combining that into a form of energized attack with your ki. And like this is where we get in with ki or chi or whatever the fuck you want to call it, or prana, life force, fucking solar energy, I don't fucking know, tachyon energy, like whatever you want to, kundalini, fucking there's Merkaba, light field, body, all that shit, Tauros, toroidal energy. I mean, electromagnetic field around your body, aura, fucking like, I don't know, just strengthening your electromagnetic field. I like the word electromagnetic field because it sounds more like there's less like kind of hippity dippiness kind of associated with that word, and it seems just kind of logical and cold and scientific, like it is this. But I think regardless, all these things, like, I just wonder, like, obviously it sounds in your head like shooting a fireball out of your fucking hand, or energized attack, or the idea of having ki, and it just seems like ridiculous because we're here in the West where like we got guns, we were in the modern day, you know, like, yeah, we have UFC fighters, we have people doing stuff, but we don't have people doing things on superhuman levels. Like, if we did, we would know about that, I feel like. Or maybe we wouldn't. Maybe these people wouldn't want us to know about them. I definitely wouldn't if I was able to do something. Why the fuck would I want people to know I could do it? And all of a sudden, like, you're an outsider, or you're, like, other, and you're, like, the enemy, because everyone would be fearful of you. Like, will you attack me? And, like, it would just reinforce this sense of outsider or alien, and people are so fucking concerned for their safety that they'll kill you because they're afraid, which makes no fucking sense. But, you know, like, I don't fucking know. Anyways, martial arts. I just think it's a really important topic to talk about, and it's one that like I'll probably dedicate a lot of podcasts to because it's just endless, and it's something that like I believe the youth should learn about. Like, and I don't expect any like youth to be listening to my podcast, and if you are, take everything I say with a fucking grain of salt. Don't swear, respect your parents, all that good bullshit. But honestly, like, don't take anything I have to say like, because I'm not really speaking generally for young people, because I don't feel like the greatest role model for young people, but I obviously want to help young people. I want to be involved with young people. I do want to help the world, and it's just how do you do that? And like my biggest thing is like, in what way do I want to help people? And like I've always found that empowering people feels the best to me. Just like giving people energy and making them feel alive, and you know, like they can do their mission, like that to me, that's what's exciting, like, is seeing people fulfill their missions, or chase their dreams. Like dream chasers, they're the ones that are like kind of inspiring and leading the rest of us. And I had this thought the other night, it's the artists, because I saw a meme, something about like it's the artists that are up till 3. If you see a light on at 3, you know they're an artist, or some shit like that. Or maybe they're just crazy, or they have fucking mental illness, or they're just narcoleptic. I don't know, not narcoleptic, insomniac. What am I talking about? Yeah, they just leave the lights on because they fall asleep every fucking 5 minutes. Yeah, so I guess the biggest thing that I've wanted to kind of point out with martial arts is the ability that it has to kind of mold you in a positive way. I mean, it could be in a negative way too, I guess, you know, like you fighting people and being negative about it and channeling your anger in an unhealthy way. But like I feel like martial arts, especially as a man, like when you're growing up, because you're like, oh, what is a man, like what is this idea of like who I'm supposed to be, what am I supposed to do, what is all this, you know? You get born and then you're just told, hey, you're a man, you got a dick, you got to toughen up, and you're gonna be like, I don't know, fighting niggas someday and just fucking flipping out. And it's just like, in my mind, I can't even rationalize a world where you're born into it like that. But like I get it now that I'm older, like now that there's actual like consequences and responsibilities, and you realize like, oh shit, like if I do this, there might be some karma attached to this. It's not, you know, like when you're a kid, everything seems like a game, and it's like I always make that joke, you think this is a game? You think this is a game? And it's just like, it kind of is. I mean, like, you're taught kind of it is. You're a kid playing a game your whole life thinking that, like, or some of us are, I guess. I bet there's people out there living fucking way more hardcore life than I am. I'm talking with my fucking white ass privilege here in America. There's people all around the world, and I'm sitting here on pieces of technology and shit, able to even talk about my problems. What the fuck? I need to stop bitching. But yeah, so martial arts is pretty cool. Something, if you've never thought about taking up a martial art, something I would definitely recommend to anybody. Not for the sole purpose of just like feeling like you can fight or anything. I mean, like that's great too. That's a confidence builder. That brings courage. I mean, it makes your body stronger. There's just so many benefits to it. Really, you're learning like a really good hobby. You're meeting people. You're getting in the community. You're really like, I don't know. Like there's something about the mentality of like sparring with people or just being around people who are on a similar mission, but like there's something about the mission of martial arts which is this idea of self-mastery. You're around people who want to be better. Like supposedly you're around people who want to be better. Not everybody like does what they say they want to do. Like I'm a testament to that. Like I've said, I want to do a lot of things in my life I haven't done. I'm trying, but I can do way better, so I'm doing that now. But I'm like making up for lost time, I feel like. But at the same time, like, there's plenty of people out there that, like, are literally doing that. You're wasting your time. Like, what are you doing? Like, get out there. Like, have fun. Don't be locked up. Fucking go explore the world. Like, if you ever feel entrapped or, like, life is this fucking boring, depressive, evil, fucking monopolist game, like, there needs to be some changes. Like you got to start changing shit up in your life, or like it's like driving a car and not changing the brake pads. Like you just eventually you're gonna fucking crash. Like something in your life needs to be replaced or changed in the vehicle that is your life, because this thing that you're driving around is fucking causing you pain. And like a lot of us don't realize that, you know, because things, you know, you got responsibilities, you gotta go to work, you might have kids, you might gotta do what you gotta do, you might not have a lot of money, so you're just getting by. But like everybody can always do better, and it's like when you get to this level where you just accept and you're just complacent and you're like, no, this is what it is. Like I am just, and you stop learning. Like you're kind of giving up. It's like taking the fucking water and not boiling it. Like you had it boiling for so long, you almost did it. You're doing it, and then you're just like giving up. You're just turning the dialer down. You're like, yeah, fuck this water. And then you just sit there complacent in your pot when you could have fucking turned to steam and escaped like your prison. But all you had to do was keep applying like more hard work or more, just a little bit more. I mean, for some of us, like maybe you're already doing that. Maybe you're busting ass and there's no more you can fucking do, and life has you so down that it's depressive. It's like from every angle you might have boxed yourself in. You may have made choices that are self-limiting, and now you don't have friends. You may have been in and out of jail. Who fucking knows? Everybody makes decisions in life, but you do have to deal with the consequences. When you put actions out in the world, the karma is that they do come back. Like, you can't just think it's this television show where, like, because the camera's not on the screen right here for this action, that, like, there are no characters everywhere else who could come back someday and, for some retribution or, like, anything. Like, you gotta be careful about what you do in the world. It's not a fucking play. Well, it is. It's the ultimate play. I mean, it's the ultimate story. It's life. It is. It's what stories are modeled after. Or even life tries to model itself after stories sometimes too. Art imitating life and life imitating art. But there's just a lot of interesting things about martial arts that I personally would recommend to anyone, and the biggest one being is just like self-confidence and the ability to want to grow. Like, you want better values, you want the best for others, you want to see others succeed, you want yourself to succeed, you want to see people do good, you have higher expectations of yourself because you've been taught and disciplined and focused that these things are achievable through hard work. And like, for some of us, you forget that along the path, and you might still be working hard. The idea of hard work, like, you could have a job where you're busting your fucking ass every day, but is that job benefiting you? Are you at that place because you're stuck there? Or do you stay there because you're scared? Or because working hard, like, if you've given up on yourself, like, and you're still just, and you have to bust ass every day, like, why? It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why wouldn't you work hard to get the fuck out of that situation instead of, like, knowing you're gonna have to work hard regardless at that hard ass job your whole life, and it's gonna destroy you. Or you could fucking work a little harder or something, get out of there to have something that you're not killing yourself and you're making a good living and you do feel better, and you haven't limited yourself to this idea that like, oh, this is who I am, like what I am now is who I am. And like for myself, I always have this idea, this futuristic version of myself, which is part of my own complex and I need to get over. But like I'm always like projecting myself out, like someday I'm gonna be this. And you know, like what are you doing for the actions? Like what the fuck are you doing? And like the same for anyone. Like if you don't see yourself at that job in 10 years or in 5 years, or you say you have these dreams and you're in your 20s or 30s or even any time really, but I'm talking to people my age really, because I see all of my friends going through this, I see other people going through this. Like the biggest part is like fucking finding the ball sack and digging deep and fucking and just pushing for what you want, because if you don't, somebody else does, and then they get what you didn't because they did that work. You know, you can't be mad at other people or fucking, you know, not want to support other people and their dreams because you feel your dreams aren't being fulfilled. That's a dickhead move. You know, like my biggest thing is like whether it's my friends or my family, if somebody's doing something, even if it's somebody I don't really know that well, I see someone on Facebook, I'll fucking share their shit, and I don't even have to know them that well because I know how much it means to have somebody fucking share your shit so you can get your message out, because you want to be heard, you want to have a voice, you want this thing that you're doing for the world to get heard. And like when you're not able to see other people's success and you're looking around at others, and because they're maybe doing better, it appears they're doing better at the time or whatever, and you have a sour attitude about it, well, what are you doing? You know, are you just bitching and doing the same thing every day? Are you getting home? Are you researching new jobs? Are you trying to find new education opportunities? Are you looking for college grants? Are you fucking, what are you doing? What are you using with your time? Or are you coming home? And like, I know for some people, like, life's fucking hard. How do you do that when you're like, I don't know, maybe you're 40 something, maybe you're 50 something, and like you're busting fucking ass every day, your body's beat to shit, you have a labor job, you don't know much about computers, you don't really use the internet, you've been working this labor job your whole fucking life, your body, you know, what do you do? And the biggest thing I can say to people is ask for help. And for some people, you know, they're too prideful. They don't want to ask for help. I'm a man, you know, like, and we have this idea ingrained in us that if you have to ask for help, you're weak. But I would argue that if you can't even ask for help, you're weak, because anyone who thinks that they can do it all themselves is both a fool, and we'll see how far that fucking gets them, because nobody does anything themselves. It's impossible to do anything your fucking self in terms of a long-term goal. Even if you say like, yeah, I was the one who had to remember all the lines and show up to the fucking, you know, acting gig, and then I got the gig, and then I was there, and I did all the fucking shit, and now the movie's out. I did that all without anyone. I did it myself. Well, of course, you do have to show up and fucking do what you're responsible for. You're following through with your fucking word. It's who you are. It's your character. You're no one. But at the same time, nobody owes you anything. Like, that position, that opportunity could not even exist if there wasn't someone outside yourself to create it for you. So that's where I get as you're not doing it all yourself. Like, you're getting help every step of the way. You're not acknowledging it, and you're reaching out blindly, taking, and not realizing all the hands that are giving out helping. So that way, when it comes time for you to be a giver, you're not. You're still a taker. You're this fucking little greedy motherfucker who's now aged to like a fine wine of shit into like this prime creature. This is unfortunate. I don't even know how I got off on that fucking tangent. That was a weird one. But anyways, swooping back into angry young men and the whole martial arts thing. I feel like obviously our country, we do kind of have an angry young men problem, taking adolescence and substance abuse and criminality right now for a class, and it's interesting. It's making me think a lot about, you know, my past and how people might even be growing up today, or, you know, my friends around me, or I know like not everybody's grown up parallel to each other. Some people are completely perpendicular, you know, they have had the silver spoon, they're fucking rich as fuck, like they didn't, and like you still get problems even if you're rich. There's different problems, but like it's just you don't have the same values. You don't look at things the same way. You don't have the same, like, I don't know, even drive as someone who, like, if you already got the money, how can you have a drive? Like, it's already given to you. Like, but I guess this whole idea of the angry young man and substance abuse especially, and I remember this in school. It's like, and like I'm not labeling anybody, I'm not whatever, but I gotta be free to talk about stuff, or else you can't, and you can't be offended either, or else things never get better. If you're not allowed to talk about things because you're fear of offending people, then you can go fuck yourself, because you don't want to get to the bottom of a fucking problem because you don't want to be offended. And that's bullshit, because the problem could be solved if people were just adults and heard shit. Yeah, you might not want to hear that, but be an adult, fucking whatever, and then say your point. Like, you don't gotta bitch people out and fucking... Anyways. Angry young men. I basically had to watch a video yesterday for this class for the Hallwall pre-release program that we do have for inmates, which is basically where they take an inmate who is usually around 3 to 4 months before their release, and they try to reacclimate them to society. And this is through obviously different programs, and I'm not sure if every single inmate goes through the same exact program or if there's different types, but basically they get them back into working jobs. They help them try to find jobs even. They teach them for, like, I think it's like 9 or 10 months basically at this place, how to kind of reacclimate and behavior, all that stuff back into society, you know, because you've been locked up in a fucking place where everybody is hyper masculine, fucking, and not to mention probably not that educated and have their own idea of what should be, and almost everybody in there has this grand scheme of, like, the big catch or the big fucking score where they're gonna get back out and hop on the streets and just do it one more time, get that money and get out of the game. And then you just end up in prison again or in jail or whatever. You just keep getting scooped up. And then once you do it more than once, you do it like once or twice, like, you just kind of have it in your brain that, like, this is who I am. I am a criminal. Like, I'm that guy. Like, you know, like, it's like you've been stained in a way. Like, your confidence, your everything. You start seeing yourself as maybe more angry because you feel that makes you more powerful or something, you know, compared to the other males who are just as angry out there, you know, like, whatever. But at the same time, like, you get all these dudes that, or women as well, but the focus has been primarily this semester on the men part, because they're the main perpetrators of violence on people. In substance abuse especially, is a lot of these people start their, you know, careers in substance abuse when they're like 13. Well, the most violent. I mean, anybody can be violent in one outburst and be labeled violent the rest of their life, but a lot of these kids have a history of reoccurring violence, you know, from whether it was the beginning in school, blah, 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 or later on. But they may not have had the best, you know, opportunities growing up. They may not have had the parents to be there even. Like, the 2 cases that I heard, the first one, the guy's dad never knew his dad, like, ever. And he was one of 5 kids, and his mom was just busting ass all the time. So, of course, she's not around to, like, she's working for 5 kids all the time. So he's going to be getting in trouble. He's trying to model himself after older kids that he thought was cool or were more manly because maybe they were more aggressive. And, like, that's what a male's supposed to be or something. So, like, without a father figure around, this dude was modeling, like, for behavior-wise, all the 18 or 19-year-old kids who were more substance abusers covered in tats and just came across more deadly. Like, I don't know what the fucking word is. Like, the dude just, like, as a kid, he just thought, like, that was men. Like, that's masculine. Like, you have to be as, like, angry and aggressive looking as possible, and that's what girls want, and, like, that's how you act, and that's what you need to become, and, like, this is what it is. And then he started smoking weed around 13, and then eventually he started selling it, you know, drinking all the time, skipping classes. I mean, like, and I sound like that, like a fucking, like, nerd right now. Oh my god, he starts skipping classes. Like, I don't fucking care. Everybody skip classes. But, like, you definitely can tell, like, even when I was in school, I could tell what kids are gonna fucking grow up and not do shit. And, like, look at me now, and, like, oh, look at me now. But, like, am I doing shit or not? But, like, I still gotta talk about this. Like, there are people out there that are just predisposed to a life of crime, whether that's the environment they grow up in with their family, etc. Like, this guy, obviously, like, his mom is all he had, and then he's modeling himself behavior-wise or people who weren't good influences, obviously, and then he got into drugs, and then that started hijacking his brain from an early age, and he's started hanging out with more and more gangs, and then running more drugs, and then getting into more trouble, and then keep relapsing in and out of jail, blah, blah, blah. Other guy's dad was there, but him and his brother, or the guy's father and his brother, were always fucking teasing him from an early age. Just anytime he cried, they'd be like, "Oh, I thought we brought a boy home from the hospital," and they both laugh at him and stuff. And so obviously you're gonna grow up a little like repressing emotions and stuff. So this kid learned to like, oh, I'm not allowed to cry, I'm not allowed to blah, like, and so he's bottling up all this stuff. Obviously as a young boy, and just feeling bad about it, so he starts drinking, getting involved with, again, older kids, thinking, this is how you act, like, this is how you get people to like you, and obviously he's super poor, started selling drugs, and then he realized he could buy the same clothes as the other kids, and he could appear like he was as normal as anyone else, and then, especially when it came time to party and stuff, because then everybody wanted to do drugs at parties or drink or have access to alcohol, and obviously it's these kids that are most likely to have access to it, so then they become in a sense like, oh, these guys are cool, he's getting me drunk right now, or like I get my whatever off Timmy, or like whoever, like, and it's just, I don't know, it's all fucking interesting. But anyway, so this guy thinks, oh, this makes me cool, everybody likes me. Then high school gets done, everybody moves the fuck on, and this guy is still selling drugs and still fucking doing the same shit. And there he is, like, getting caught, picked up for gun charges, all the shit. Has a kid, think he's going to change his life. Waits 3 months, it's the best time of his life, hasn't touched a drug. Touches one again because he's under stress, and then goes right back in again. And then, like, both of them, like, pretty much lost their relationships with both the significant others they had at the time, as well as the connection they had to their children, as they obviously weren't around ever, and they're in and out of jail. Imagine the influences on the child, blah, 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 blah. So all that stuff's, like, just interesting. And the biggest thing I learned, I guess, is just, like, how easy it is for, like, or how easy it could have been for me to be one of those people, or anybody who's just growing up that from a kind of a traumatic childhood, or anything they perceive, and they're trying to, cover shit up with substances, or if they even perceive that's why they are doing it initially. But because it might just be a good time at first, but then a good time turns into, addiction, and then you're addicted, and you're like, well, why am I doing this all the time? Why do I need this? And then there's underlying problems, like, why can't you just be happy? And so I think a lot of the problem of this angry young men phenomenon, especially in our generation, I mean, there's so many variables, from the fact that, like, most parents are fucking divorced. It's like, what is it, 50% of marriages end in divorce? So you have, like, what, 50% of homes are now split homes, combining with the fact that now, like, food and the financial security of the average home is, like, becoming crippling for the cost of living even. So everyone's, like, starving unless you're fucking super high class white people, or I'm not just high class white people, but it's just, I don't know. I would say I don't know a lot, but I really don't. I don't have answers to anything. I just like pointing at stuff and being like, well, what do we fucking do about that? There's a leak over there. I don't know how to fix it. I'm not a plumber, but I will talk about how the water is fucking hitting everybody in the face, and nobody else is knowing this, and we're about to drown because of this problem, so we should probably do something about it. That type of dude. But yeah, I guess the biggest thing to take out of this would just be maybe if we found a way to get youth more involved in the community besides just fucking school. Like, I feel like school indoctrinates children into this brainwashed authoritarian style of this is how life is, when it's not how life is at all. I mean, maybe within the workplace, when they want you to be a good worker bee and follow fucking orders like you're in the military or under their regime or whatever, and you're doing stuff you don't want to do for people you don't like, even to get a shitty paycheck, I'm sure. But, like, what are your skills really? Like, you're flipping a burger, why do you demand 15? Like, that's all that type of shit. But I do obviously acknowledge there needs to be a living wage. Like, people don't need to starve, that's for sure. But yeah, I'm not really offering any substance here in terms of solutions for you guys. So yeah, I'm gonna have to move on from that because I don't fucking know anything about that stuff. But do you think that's air you're breathing? That's an interesting concept. Someone asked what my favorite movie line was, and that was definitely what it was. It was Morpheus is standing there in Neo in the Matrix when they're inside the dojo fighting, which is a digitized program, I guess, essentially within their minds, or their minds are projected within the program, or digitized within the constructs of that program. which is another dimension essentially. But anyways, they're fighting there, and Neo gets out of breath, and then Morpheus walks up to him, and he's being all philosophical and just telling him, "Why can't you hit me?" and all this shit. And he's like, "Well, what do you think my muscles have to do anything with my strength in this place?" Because it's like, what is the body he perceives himself to have in this new dimension? Is it just as physically strong as it is in the other dimension where his, in theory, physical body exists? And he's trying to get Neo to like kind of realize the boundaries between dimensions, and even though they're in their digitized version of themselves, like Neo still has all these limitations on himself that don't allow him to express the potential of his vehicle or his body within this space, because he believes it's limited by the rules of other spaces, which is where his physical body is. Where I can't fly in this world, it's not allowed. Like if I was able to fly, I would know how, or this type of shit. Whereas when he goes in the Matrix, he has this idea, kind of like when you're in a dream or a dream world, like, oh, this isn't real. I can do whatever the fuck I want. I'm just dreaming. And, and then all of a sudden you get the sense of power, and you're like, yeah, fuck it, I'm gonna fly. And then you start flying around, do whatever you want. Whatever people do in their dreams or other sick shit, I don't fucking know. But ultimately, like, it's this idea of, like, I will because I can, and the only reason you believe you can is because you don't believe it's real. So, I don't know. It's interesting. Or like, what is real? How do you define real? But yeah, he says that one quote, "Do you think that's air you're breathing?" And it just, that's a really good one that stuck with me, because it does. It makes you think. It's almost like, what is the sound of one hand clapping? It's just like one of these weird paradoxal Buddhist or fucking, I don't know what it is, mantra-like statements to induce silence or some type of intense meditational thought on the subject that gets you to blast through the layers and transcend into higher realms of thought really quickly. Because like, just by saying, "Do you think that's air you're breathing?" Like, he's just asking a question. It's pretty simple. I could say that to anyone in this world and they wouldn't get it. But as soon as we're in a different place, like another dimension, like in the dream world where it's someplace we constructed and we know it's, hey, this is all fake, where this isn't my real body, and I ask you, "Do you think that's air you're breathing?" because you're out of breath? Like, come on. Think about that. Like, that's really important. Is Neo sitting there like gasping for air, but like, why? Is there even fucking air in the Matrix? Is it digitized air? Is it light particles? Is it zero? Are you just breathing in zeros and ones? Is it your mind perceiving the perception of air entering your lungs? So it is, and that's what's limiting your ability endurance-wise to go on past levels that you can perceive you can endure past? Or like, what is just getting him to realize his limitations and then try to shatter them with a fucking question? There's just something about it. And then obviously his name being Morpheus, the god of dreams from the Greek mythology, which is pretty sweet. But I just, it's one of those ones that it's a thinker, and I love it. That's why I love The Matrix. It's just full of fucking wisdom. It's wise. It's a wise motherfucking movie. But yeah, I just like the idea that, like, almost in a fortune cookie-esque statement, like, you can induce thought altering like realities within somebody. Like, that's crazy. Obviously they're in another dimension, so that's already fucking reality bending. Like, what's more reality bending than realizing that you were asleep inside a fucking pod to a robot world the whole time, or whatever, and that you're going to be redigitized back in that world. You got yanked out, and we're just going to set you back, and you have to be okay with it. Like, it reminds me of fucking tripping or something. Like, but at the same time, I don't know. Fucking The Matrix. It's definitely a watcher. It's like my Bible. You can go back to that shit all the fucking time and just find, like, really, really good bits of wisdom. Something I recommend to anybody to watch. Lastly, do the ends justify the means in the pursuit of power? Well, that was something I kind of was getting out of the movie I was watching the other night, when there was the classic archetypal battle between good and evil, even though it's kind of gray, morally gray between both of them, like 50 Shades of Gray. Just no whips or fucking belts or dildos or anything like that. But just power. Like, why do people want power? Is it fear? Like, do people fear being attacked, so they need power to defend themselves? Or do they want power for the sake of subjugation and control of others? But why do you need control? Are you fearful? Like, what are you fearful of? And then it's usually people. So you have a fear of people, which is why you need power to either kill these people or control them to your will or demand, which makes you safe and secure. And what does that do then? Just trying to run with my thought track here, but I was just thinking with this whole fucking movie, like, this guy's whole goal, like, he sacrificed pretty much everything in his life, from love to his body, like everything, for the sake of power, to get more power. And his form of power, even though this is all symbolic allegory shit and I'm drawing from like a movie, but like it's still there, like a dude's sacrifice for power. And like, and that's where I get to the ends justify the means in the pursuit of power. Like, by the end, like, yeah, he got what he wanted, but he become like a demon in the sense that, like, he was no longer human, and he had the power he seeked, but there was no one around anymore, and he existed solely as a symbol of that power, an arbiter almost, a fucking candle with the flame on top, to just be the vessel through which power expresses itself, more than he was in control of it. I felt like, even though he had mastered this idea of power, like able to physically manifest ki and shoot fireballs, do all this crazy shit, it's all fantastical, obviously, but this applies on as above so below, you know, little emerald tablet wisdom for y'all. Pretty much anywhere into life, like, you can't expect that those same lessons can't be applied to someone in the business world or any profession. Like, the pursuit of power, like, why do you need power? Why does a king need power? So it's like, kingdom doesn't kill him, or, you know, or why does the president need power? Like, well, does the president even have power? You know, obviously certain types of power, but not that much power as we like to think. But it's just interesting. Why do people have the need, or countries, or large groups of people, or individuals, the idea of power, the attainment of something that gives me control? And it's interesting, everybody's looking for this ultimate form of control over others, like, I beat you, or, and the biggest way I've found it is knowledge is power. And since knowledge is equivalent to power, and the pursuit of knowledge, there's a lot of fear, and people get lost along that path and become corrupted, I feel like, for the sake of power itself. And I feel like, you know, smart people, obviously, the more you learn, you know, obviously you realize the real true extent that you can manipulate the world around you with your thoughts. Like, whether it's through speech, your hands, anything, your art, whatever it is, like, the smarter you get in this world, you literally realize your place more and more and more, and how, like, really infinite it is, and you are, and your ability to manifest the things you want in life, whether, you know, that's a painting or fucking anything, literally everything and anything. And so I always get to these, like, weird moral debates, like, this dude, like, wanted to achieve this level of power, but why? Like, was it a lot of people would say, you know, just fear, or like whatever, but that wasn't really his character. It wasn't that he was afraid of anything, because that's what I was talking about before, is why do you need power? I think of most people, and they need power like humans. They need power because they're afraid to die, or they're afraid of this or whatever. But his power revolved around pride, like, just knowing that he could do it. Like, it wasn't so much that he was afraid that, you know, he was going to be conquered, or people were going to beat him, and like he was afraid to die. No, like, he was always welcoming death. But like, it was a pride issue. It was just constantly for him is, I will prove this is possible. It was like the ultimate form of ego, like, and desire, just in a fucking moment of anger and madness, deciding for itself that it will take control of the very fucking life force. So, like, I don't know, it's just interesting. But this dude's trained for years, almost destroyed his fucking body trying to master this energy, and then he finally does, and he's just left almost a husk of his humanity, but he's this powerful being. But now it's like, that's all you are. That is what you are. That's what you wanted. That is the totality of your essence. Like, you are only meant to fight. Nothing more, nothing less. You exist as the ultimate fighter to challenge other fighters in combat constantly, to prove yourself and or to them or whatever until you die. And that is your essence. That is the life of the warrior. But like, that truly was what he embodied. It was, I don't know, just insane to see. It was like, then you have his brother, who's on a different path, in the path of nothingness, and just more peaceful, and has students, and is more pleasant and tranquil. Even though he's very disciplined, it can be, you know, aggressive and things like that, but he was not. He didn't let the darkness consume him in the way that his brother did to achieve the amount of power that he had basically grasped a hold of and mastered. But obviously there's many ways to the finish line, so they had a battle in the end, and that will be concluded. I'll let you guys watch the movie. It's Street Fighter Assassin's Fist. It's on all that. I watched it on PS4, but I'm sure it's online. I know it's on Blu-ray. I know it's on Netflix, all that bullshit, Hulu. But yeah, I don't know. I've been fucking talking for a bit, so I'm gonna wrap this shit up. Basically, be a good person. Go out there and do great things for people, and always remember to fucking conquest on your journey. This is the Conquest Podquest. You can find us at www.theconquestpodquest.com. We are on Instagram as The Real Conquest Podquest. Also on Twitter, The Conquest PodQ, because I can't fucking spell the whole word out. It will not let me. And we are also on Facebook if you type in The Conquest Podquest. I've said that enough fucking times. And I love y'all, motherfuckers. Peace.